witnessed a murder scene and was targeted by the killer. Accidentally counterattacked the other party while fleeing. He turned the killer into a vegetative state, hid him in his attic. 2 years later the killer suddenly woke up and had amnesia. He took the opportunity to lie and say he was his wife, but he didn't expect the killer to wake up. He was like a newly hatched duckling, treating him as his only support. Who would have thought that the killer, who was originally twisted, turned into a shy and clingy puppy? Yi Yan is a plant doctor. Introverted, he only likes to deal with plants. Late at night he took his electric shovel to the mountain behind his house to treat a group of sick trees. Unexpectedly he stumbled upon a dark scene here. In the moonlight a tall and slender man was burying his prey alive. He had a sickly smile on his face regardless of how the victim begged for death. He just watched coldly, then kicked him into the deep pit. He picked up the shovel and buried the soil. Yi Yan was terrified by this scene. He trembled and took out his phone to call the police, but accidentally stepped on a dry branch. Alerted the man, he turned around, his deep pupils flashing with danger. As if discovering new prey. Are you sure you're not running? Yi Yan immediately turned and ran, calling the police and explaining the situation as he ran. Before he finished speaking, a thin fishing line wrapped around his neck. The man leaned close to his ear, tightening the fishing line, and handed him the electric shovel. Don't forget this when you run away. As the line around his neck tightened, Yi Yan could barely breathe. At the critical moment he burst out with astonishing strength. He grabbed the electric shovel and smashed it backward. The smile on the man's face froze. The man immediately fled. Yi Yan looked down the slope at the unconscious man. He didn't know what to do for a moment. The next second he suddenly fainted. When he opened his eyes again he found himself tied to a stool. A man was staring at him expressionlessly. After a conversation he learned that this man's name was Quan Jishi and the man who was pushed down the slope was Quan Kaiyu. The two were brothers. Yi Yan quickly explained that he was acting in self-defense, and that he had injured Quan Kaiyu with the electric shovel, and your brother almost killed me. He was burying someone alive. Quan Jishi's eyes were surprisingly calm. What's wrong with burying someone alive? Yi Yan was stunned. Clearly neither of these brothers was normal. He quickly added, the fatal injury was caused by the man being buried alive. Quan Jishi interrupted his explanation. To him, the details were not important. What was important was that this woman had to pay a price. Quan Jishi looked down at him, his eyes silent and stern, as if looking at an ant that could be crushed at any moment. His tone was calmly chilling. The price is that you have to make a deal with me. Take care of my brother until that man is found. Whether you tied Quan Kai's feet or hands. Soon Quan Jishi built a second floor in his house. He settled Quan Kaiyu there and arranged for medical staff to take care of him from time to time. 2 years passed quietly. Every night before going to bed, Yi Yan would go to the second floor to check on him, then sit by the bed and pray devoutly. Please don't wake up, but his wish was in vain. That night he went to the second floor like a ghost. The bed was empty. Just as he was at a loss, a pair of arms restrained him from the darkness. Yi Yan was terrified. The vegetative state for 2 years. His muscles should have completely atrophied. Why was his physique still so terrifying? Yi Yan begged Quan Kaiyu to let him go, saying he could explain everything. You lock me up. His voice was like ice. Or did I lock you up? Yi Yan quickly explained. Quan Kaiyu, it's not what you think. You've been in a coma for 2 years. He suddenly turned him around. At that moment, Yi Yan met a pair of eyes that made his heart stop. Deep as resentment, cold as ice, like a beast staring at prey. But with a hint of confusion. His face was still handsome, but he had more strength than before he fell into a coma. Quan Kaiyu, he repeated softly, is that my name? Yi Yan was stunned. He slowly approached his face, the needle mark in his hand gently pressed against his neck. His voice was chilling. Tell me, am I important to you? Are you someone important to me, or someone I would kill without hesitation? Probably not someone important, because I really want to twist your face right now. His gaze reminded Yi Yan of the fear he felt that night on the back mountain. He quickly and excitedly explained, we have a very close relationship. You are very, very kind. How could you possibly kill someone? You even gave me a necklace. How is that not a necklace? Quan Kaiyu is a very considerate person. He wouldn't force me to do anything. He wouldn't be so fierce to me, nor would he do bad things. His finger traced Yi Yan's neck. The cold touch made him tremble. Why wouldn't I do bad things? Seeing his life in danger, Yi Yan blurted out, because I am your wife. Quan Kaiyu was stunned. He wanted to say something more but suddenly fainted. No matter how Yi Yan called, he didn't wake up. A month later he was at work dealing with injured trees. Received a call from the hospital. The doctor said Quan Kaiyu has recovered very well. Apart from amnesia, his brain shows no abnormalities, but he has developed a rare sleeping sickness. Once he falls asleep, he doesn't know when he will wake up, from 3 days initially to 5 days. Now he hasn't woken up for 12 days. Yi Yan was heartbroken upon hearing this news. He hastily hung up the phone, missing the doctor's most important warning. Patients with sleeping sickness become more paranoid, aggressive, and more attached to intimate relationships. What puzzled the doctor was that Quan Kaiyu would always repeat one sentence in his sleep. Please don't wake me up. That night Yi Yan returned home. Quan Kaiyu had already been sent back by the medical staff. He hummed a tune and went upstairs. He found the hospital bed empty again. In a panic he found Quan Kaiyu not far from home. Under the moonlight he stood there quietly holding a dead chicken in his hand. His eyes were hollow and cold. Yi Yan covered his mouth in terror. It was obvious that he had bitten the chicken to death. Why was this person so terrifying even with amnesia? Quan Kaiyu murmured softly, "Where can I go?" Yi Yan then realized that he had broken the back door and run out to find him. He pulled at the corners of his mouth trying to comfort Quan Kaiyu and get him to come home with him. But Quan Kaiyu suddenly leaned in and said, "I am very sure now that you are my wife. Because during my coma I've only dreamed of you." Yi Yan was so scared he wanted to back away. Quan Kaiyu suddenly asked him his name. He hesitated for a moment. Quan Kai's voice turned cold. "Don't make me ask a second time." Yi Yan immediately confessed honestly. He stared intently into his eyes. "Are you planning to abandon me now that your husband has amnesia and become foolish?" To save his life, Yi Yan shook his head repeatedly. A cold smile played on his lips. "It seems I really am your husband. The thought of you abandoning me makes me furious. Look how much I love you." Yi Yan couldn't bear the love of a madman. But he didn't dare to disobey Quan Kaiyu, worried that being here for too long would be seen by neighbors. He could only suppress his unease and coax Quan Kaiyu to go home with him. Upon arriving home, Yi Yan bandaged Quan Kai's wound. When he looked up, he found Quan Kaiyu constantly watching him, his gaze like that of a beast. Observing its prey, it sent a chill down his spine. He wanted to find an excuse to leave. But Quan Kaiyu stopped him. "We are husband and wife. Are we going to sleep in separate rooms?" Yi Yan's face instantly turned red. The price of this lie seemed to be exceeding his expectations. Quan Kaiyu noticed his unease. His voice suddenly softened. "I will be like the husband in your memory. I won't treat you carelessly, nor will I force you." Yi Yan then uneasily lay down on the other side. But the following conversation made him somewhat unable to cope. Quan Kaiyu, like a curious child, asked question after question. He could only rack his brain fabricating their past. "We got married 2 years ago. Right after we got married you had an accident in the back mountains. And became a vegetative state. How long did you date?" Yi Yan, who had been single since birth, racked his brains. "As soon as we met." It's hard to understand why he would play the wife of someone who almost killed him. Urging him to clarify things and then return to single life. "I have many high-quality men to introduce to you." The next second he was slapped in the face at light speed. Quan Kaiyu walked down from upstairs. This man's appearance was simply as if he had stepped out of a painting. So handsome that it was lawless. The dean immediately changed his tune. Shouting that the son-in-law had arrived, the three of them sat on the sofa. Upon learning that the dean was also a tree doctor, Quan Kaiyu asked about his profession. "You casually mentioned that you planted phoenix flowers at the tree hospital before. Although it was planted in the mountains." Quan Kaiyu suddenly asked the dean cautiously. "Can I sit next to Yi Yan?" The atmosphere became a little tense for a moment. Quan Kaiyu had a confused look on his face. But Yi Yan always felt a cold glint hidden in those eyes. Instantly backing down, he immediately took the initiative to sit next to him. Looking at Quan Kai's happy and satisfied expression, the dean couldn't help but think, has this person really buried someone alive? Yi Yan explained that the dean was a colleague he had known for 15 years. They were very close, so he often came to visit. Quan Kaiyu said seriously. "Then the dean must be very important to Yi Yan. I have to perform well for him." He quickly apologized for his previous presumption. After all, Yi Yan had said he was a gentle and polite person. The dean chatted with him, and when they talked about the progress of his sleep disorder recovery, Yi Yan, afraid he would remember the doctor's instructions, quickly interrupted. "Quan Kaiyu doesn't need to recover so quickly. Take your time. Why do you always call me by my full name?" He suddenly tilted his head and stared at him. Those deep eyes held a hint of hurt. "Can't you call me Kaiyu? For me, who has amnesia, although you feel strange. You are all I have." Yi Yan was at a loss for words by his sudden words. His cheeks flushed and Quan Kaiyu gently leaned down and caressed his face. "If I lose even this last connection, what should I do? I want to be a husband who makes you happy." This intimate gesture made Yi Yan's heart race. He frantically warned himself that this excitement must be due to fear. The dean looked at the rare flustered expression on Yi Yan's face and quietly took out his phone, deciding to thoroughly investigate Quan Kai's identity. In the evening, Yi Yan lay tiredly on the bed. He had been dealing with the clingy Quan Kaiyu all day. It had really exhausted him. Finally, he used work as an excuse to send him away. Thinking of the doctor's advice during the day, he decided he had to recover tonight. His only duty was to look after Quan Kaiyu, but this guy was too clingy. He stopped and did sit-ups outside his door. In just 1 month, his muscles had returned to their original state. This speed was astonishing. On the surface he was obedient now, but deep down he was still the killer who smiled and killed people. If this sleeping beast were to deal with him, the identity of his wife would be of no use. Just as he was praying for Quan Kaiyu to quickly return to the second floor to sleep, there was a knock on the door. Yi Yan opened the door. This voice was like a death knell. He trembled all over. He didn't dare to make a sound. After a long while it seemed quiet outside. He carefully put his ear to the door, trying to confirm if he had left. "Thought I left?" The sudden voice outside startled him. Quan Kaiyu seemed to see through his actions. "Where do you want to go? Come here, I can't smell you." Yi Yan was shocked. Quan Kaiyu explained that he could smell the scent of grass on him. His voice was a little pained. "Without you by my side, I don't even know who I am. Although I am still alive, I feel unreal." He lowered his voice, almost begging, "Please tell me this isn't a dream. Tell me I am not crazy." He paused. "Tell me about the past. Let me believe I existed." His breathing was heavy. He could have easily smashed the door open, but he hesitated to touch the thin door panel. Yi Yan was surprised to find that the kind, steady and gentle personality he had casually fabricated had actually convinced his true nature. He tried to speak. I was washing my hair and got shampoo in my eyes. It hurts a little. Can we talk about the past next time? Quan Kaiyu lowered his eyes and was silent for a long time, then finally said softly. Then I'll go back to the second floor. Yi Yan, take good care of yourself. Yi Yan was so surprised that he almost cried out when he realized he was actually leaving. But his words, take good care of yourself, sounded like a farewell. The next day when he went to the second floor, he found that Quan Kaiyu had fallen asleep. The dean who had come with him praised his looks profusely. He now felt that playing the wife of such a man was a godsend. If Yi Yan hadn't pushed him, he wouldn't have been willing to go downstairs. Yi Yan looked back before leaving. He glanced at the sleeping Quan Kaiyu and remembered what he had said last night. Take good care of yourself. Did he already know that he wasn't asleep, and left that sentence? Yi Yan angrily played the role of the amnesiac killer's wife. The amnesiac him didn't suspect his wife's identity at all. He also entered a mode of crazy self-strategy. Yi Yan woke up from a nightmare. In his dream he was still a little girl with an endless pile of poetry scrolls in front of him. He cried, I am about to lose, but the poetry scrolls piled higher and higher. That suffocating sense of despair made him collapse. Choji came to call him. He was still immersed in that feeling of helplessness. Although Choji said it was a day off, Yi Yan stubbornly insisted on going to see. Ignoring the gazes of those around him, Yi Yan softly but firmly pointed out his disgusting behavior. Last time he poured grass juice on the tree roots, this time it's seawater, right? I can taste the salt in the soil. The gazes of the surrounding customers made the boss blush. You stir up trouble everywhere, no wonder your hospital is unlucky. You ruined the principal of the elementary school next door too. What else do you want to do? That's right, there are only Yi Yan and Choji in the plant hospital. The hospital's business is getting worse and worse and they can barely make ends meet lately. Last month he was invited by the principal of the elementary school next door to treat a tree. As a result, he discovered that the principal had malicious intentions and was secretly pouring cement into the tree roots. He then shifted the blame to them trying to extort money from the hospital. Finally he exposed it to the media and the principal was dismissed. The incident caused a huge stir. Yi Yan clenched his fists, but his voice was unusually calm. Then who will protect this tree? It's also a life. Humans will experience birth, aging, sickness and death, but trees are different. As long as they take root they can live. Through this tree struggling to survive, Yi Yan seemed to see the little girl who was once ignored. They just wanted to live. His voice was almost choked with emotion. Boss, why do you have to kill him? Back home, Yi Yan leaned on the sofa lost in thought. This week had been peaceful and uneventful, just as he had wished. Quan Kaiyu had been sleeping all along, but after so many twists and turns, such peace made him feel uneasy. Just then he heard crying from the second floor. He went upstairs and saw Quan Kaiyu, who was usually cold and ruthless, crying in his sleep. He thought this was his storm. But then he heard him cry, save me, help me, hide. Yi Yan was stunned. At this moment he didn't look like a killer at all. He looked more like a fawn being chased by a hunter. He gently wiped away his tears. His voice softened unconsciously. You should wipe your own tears, shouldn't you? Thinking of what happened today, he said softly, today I tasted something salty under the tree. It was very salty. Are your tears also salty? Who hurt you? He looked at his sleeping face, murmuring to himself. Today you look like that ginkgo tree by the sea. Thinking that he wouldn't wake up so soon, Yi Yan, feeling sleepy, peacefully fell asleep on the other side. Quan Kaiyu woke up from his deep sleep. He was completely stunned to find Yi Yan lying in his arms. His face was full of pain, but he immediately moved gently. Afraid of waking Yi Yan, he looked at his sleeping face. His gaze gentle and focused, as if he wanted to engrave every detail of him into his heart. After waking up, Yi Yan occupied his entire world. Perhaps others would feel flustered upon learning they had a wife after losing their memory. But he naturally felt that Yi Yan should be his wife. He was very sure of his feelings for him, but Yi Yan's gaze always carried reservations. The big boy, flustered like a child, saw his shy appearance. Even Yi Yan couldn't help but blush. The usually dangerous and powerful all-rounder Yu. How could he show such a cute expression? He stammered an explanation that they were still in the early stages of their careers. So he wanted to monopolize him. This sentence made Quan Kaiyu's already red ears even hotter. Then in that case Yi Yan would not only go out. As he spoke, Quan Kaiyu's eyes held a hint of swelling. Don't worry, I'll only listen to you outside. Such a gentle attitude couldn't help but make Yi Yan's heart race. He opened his mouth but couldn't find a reason to forbid him from going out. In the end he could only take him to the bidding meeting. Here's a correction. The director of the tree hospital is Yi Yan and Chu Zi is the assistant. The previous video was written incorrectly. Here's a correction. The assassin who was carrying the bag still didn't know that the wife in front of him was a fake. At this moment he was being reprimanded with his head hanging low, but because his wife inadvertently held his hand, he immediately wagged his tail with teary eyes. At the project bidding meeting, Yi Yan became the focus of everyone's discussion. In this industry dominated by men in their 50s and 60s, as a young female director he would always be the subject of discussion. Those gazes never focused on his achievements, only on his appearance. They discussed that he wasn't feminine enough and even said he didn't have a ladylike gait. Just as Yi Yan was secretly annoyed by this occasion, Quan Kai-yu suddenly stepped forward and gently took his hand. He whispered in his ear, Yi Yan, do you want their eyes or their mouths? Those people who stare at you and whisper, which part do you want them to lose? This scared Yi Yan quite a bit. No, don't say such terrible things. After all, given this mon's personality, he might actually do it. Sensing Yi Yan's sudden fear, Quan Kai-yu was shaken. He then put on a hurt expression with a hint of grievance in his eyes. Wasn't I good enough just now? Is this not okay? Those clear and confused eyes made Yi Yan feel an unexpected sense of security for the first time in front of this dangerous man. He put on a stern face. No, you promised me, didn't you? You said you would only do what I allow. After saying that, he subconsciously tightened Quan Kai-yu's hand. Quan Kai-yu noticed this small gesture and a wave of sweetness surged in his heart. The corners of his mouth curved slightly upwards and a happy smile bloomed on his face. Okay, I understand. Yi Yan then noticed that the surroundings had suddenly become quiet. The corners of his lips curved into a gentle arc, his eyes full of a focused smile. As if everything around him was irrelevant and his eyes only reflected him. The broadcast in the hall sounded at this moment, announcing that the bidding meeting was about to begin. Yi Yan then realized that he was still holding Quan Kai-yu's hand. He nervously let go and hurriedly bid farewell to the two. He quickened his pace towards the venue. After walking a distance, he slowed down. Thinking of his subconscious action just now, the roots of his ears quietly turned a shade of red. The Vidam project is the largest botanical garden to be built in Wadu. Tropical Dome Greenhouse Outdoor Ecological Park. Artificial Waterfall Tropical Rainforest Restoration. This is a key project that Wadu has poured all its efforts into. It will definitely become a top-tier botanical garden. But the project leader dropped a bombshell. The selection of the botanical hospital will be conducted in a talent show format. And the entire process will be filmed as a promotional video. The project leader's reason was straightforward. We want to introduce the world's most precious plants. How can we entrust such an important task to those who want to rely on connections for their projects? More importantly, the winning hospital will receive a 10-year contract with Weideng. As soon as this news broke, everyone present was in an uproar. After all, not only would they gain stable income, but collaborating with a project of Weideng's caliber would make the hospital famous. The hospital greatly approved of the combination through selection and competition, but she was very hesitant. After coming out under Quan Kai-yu's questioning, the hospital stammered that she didn't want to be filmed, so she didn't plan to participate. Just then an unexpected man appeared. She smiled sweetly and greeted the hospital. Yi Yan froze, forcing himself to respond to her indifferently. Zhao Jingtian smiled and told them to interact more in the future. Build good relationships again. This made Yi Yan's heart turn cold. How could she say such a thing? A few years ago, when she was interning at Zhao Jingtian's hospital, Yi Yan was just a graduate student, the lowest existence in the entire hospital. But in order to open her own botanical hospital, she could tolerate the necessary internship period. What truly tormented her was Huang Zhaoling's stalking and harassment. Every day after work, she could hear footsteps following her. The gaze of people her age would always linger on her unintentionally. And those uncomfortable comments. When she finally couldn't stand it anymore, and mustered the courage to report it to the hospital, Zhao Jingtian fired Huang Zhaoying instead. When summoning the courage to report to the hospital, it was not Huang Zhaoying who was fired by Zhao Jingtian. Zhao Jingtian smiled and tried to matchmake. Alright, let's clear up anything that's left unsaid between young people. We old folks will excuse ourselves first. After speaking, he even took the initiative to invite Chu Zi to catch up. Before leaving, Chu Zi winked at Yi Yan. "I'll go gather some information." Huang Zhaoying was displeased by Yi Yan's disregard for her and slowly reached out her hand to her. It was as if she was silently declaring something. She whispered in her ear, her voice filled with grievance, "Yi Yan, I am very uneasy." "Who is that person? Is it someone I know?" Yi Yan thought Quan Kai-yu was uneasy because she didn't recognize people due to her amnesia. The Alliance explained that this was a senior from her previous internship hospital. Huang Zhaoying was displeased by their intimacy and asked Yi Yan to introduce who this was. Quan Kai-yu raised her eyes at the mention of it, her gaze sharply sweeping over Huang Zhaoying. However, her tone remained gentle. "Yes, Yi Yan. Tell her who I am." Two completely different gazes fell upon Yi Yan. One was questioning, the other held a comrade. Yi Yan's mind raced. Finally she blurted out, "She's the man I live with." Dressed as the amnesiac killer's wife, she learned how to handle him during their interactions. At this moment, Yi Yan only vaguely mentioned it. Quan Kai-yu is the man I live with. Unexpectedly, Huang Zhaoying immediately seized on the key point. Her eyes widened as she questioned Yi Yan if she was married. Yi Yan felt guilty and unwilling to nod in agreement, as it was all fake to begin with. Quan Kai-yu glanced indifferently at Huang Zhaoying and leaned closer to Yi Yan. She reminded her to nod. Yi Yan remained silent on the spot. This reaction made her heart sink. Seeing this, she directly said, "I am her husband." Huang Zhaoying was shocked, her excited voice changing tone. "Impossible. How could Yi Yan be dating someone? You've always hated interacting with people. You only know how to keep company with yourself all day. Besides me, who else could get close to you like this?" Yi Yan's expression gradually darkened. Huang Zhaoying really hadn't changed at all. She still made arbitrary judgments about her. As long as she showed the slightest deviation from what she expected, she would excitedly spew saliva. This was precisely what she hated most about her. Yi Yan coldly interrupted her. That was a long time ago. I am married now, working at the hospital and living well. Are you still treating me like a pushover? Huang Zhaoying, enraged, demanded Yi Yan show her the marriage certificate. Otherwise she wouldn't believe it. Just as Yi Yan was about to get angry, Quan Kaiyu spoke first. And suffocating pressure emanated from her. She slowly raised her eyes and stared directly at Huang Zhaoying. The intensity in her eyes was almost overflowing. Stop calling someone else's wife's name before I take action. Accompanied by her spiritual energy aura, these words successfully silenced Huang Zhaoying. Yi Yan was only stunned for a few seconds. Then Quan Kaiyu suddenly reached out her hand towards Huang Zhaoying. That slender, powerful hand. A glance of vigilance, her eyes dodged, unwilling to agree easily. Quan Kaiyu quickly added, can we only look at beautiful things from now on? This should not be difficult. This was clearly hinting that she should only look at her from now on. A glance was stunned for a moment, nodded gently with a blushing face. Quan Kaiyu raised the corners of her lips, her smile gentle in the courtyard in the twilight. She lowered her head slightly to look at her and she raised her face. Their eyes met and fallen leaves danced silently in the night wind. Time seemed to stop at this moment and Yi's face became hotter and hotter. She always felt that the atmosphere was too ambiguous and she turned around in a panic, wanting to escape. I am going to take a bath and go to bed. After this she actually started to get jealous of herself. She thought that before she lost her memory she was always clinging to her wife. Little did she know that her wife was just pretending. At this moment, Quan Kaiyu offered to help Yi wash her hair, which scared Yi greatly. She repeatedly said no, but Quan Kaiyu came with an innocent face. Are you also so polite to your husband? Yi interrupted. No means no. Quan Kaiyu slowly bent down, looking into her eyes seriously. Yi, teach me. I've forgotten so many things. If I can't even do something like washing my wife's hair, I feel very useless as a husband. Saying this, Quan Kaiyu was a little jealous of herself. Before I lost my memory I must have done many things for you. Is it because of amnesia? You are so strange to me now. Yi was speechless. How could this man talk like this now? He was so well behaved and obedient during the day. No, I absolutely cannot be led astray by her. Thinking of this, Yi continued to refuse, but Quan Kaiyu looked at her with a face full of confusion. I am just helping you wash your hair. She told her not to be so reserved with her. She could order her husband around as she pleased. Yi had to reluctantly agree, but she still couldn't help but remind her that she was just washing her hair. Quan Kaiyu was stunned for a moment. Then the corners of her mouth curved up slightly and she nodded gently. However, what happened next made Quan Kai's heart instantly fall into an ice cellar. When she accidentally saw the crisscrossing scars behind Yi's neck, she was completely stunned. What's going on with these scars? Quan Kai's voice was filled with unconcealed heartache and shock. Yi was stunned for a moment, trying to change the subject in a panic. But Quan Kaiyu had no intention of letting it go. Her voice suddenly turned cold. Who hit you? Yi lowered her eyes, her voice so light it was almost inaudible. Family. Quan Kai's face became even more gloomy. It seems that family is very bad, Yi muttered to herself. Who knows, maybe they had no choice. I was an unwanted child and I grew up stumbling. Those scars were given by my family. Quan Kaiyu couldn't understand. What reason is needed to hit someone? Yi showed a bitter smile. Sometimes it's too dark and it becomes like this. This sentence also hit home. It hit Quan Kai's heart fiercely. She suddenly realized a terrible fact. The inexplicable strength she felt when she woke up. The fear and resistance that Yi occasionally showed her. Perhaps it was her past self who was the one who hurt Yi. Yi's expression was dazed, as if she had fallen into some memory she didn't want to recall. Love turning into anger is just a moment's matter. Humans are not like numbers, they don't give unconditionally. So when things get out of hand people can't stand it. Listening to these words, Quan Kai's heart grew heavier, regret and sadness intertwined on her face. She could almost be sure that those scars must have been left by her past self. This thought made her heart ache as if it would shatter. The final killer was extremely gentle to the fake wife, but the wife struggled between her heart and fear. At this time Yi and Quan Kaiyu, through the doctor's observation, had basically confirmed that as long as Yi woke up next to Quan Kaiyu in the morning, she would not fall into a long sleep. This request was acceptable to Yi. Unconsciously her thoughts began to drift. This was the first time someone had cared about her scars. In the past everyone was used to the scars on her body. Those people would only whisper behind her back, looking at this child every day. The parents' furrowed brows are considered good. An ordinary person would have thrown such a child away long ago. It's good enough that they raised her. But Quan Kaiyu said in such a gentle tone, in my opinion Yi seems to have been holding back tears all along. What's the big deal if I cry or not? Yi thought self-deprecatingly. Thinking of Quan Kai's concerned gaze, a chill suddenly surged in her heart. So this is what it feels like to be genuinely cared for. Drowsiness gradually crept in. Her eyelids began to feel heavy. Quan Kaiyu had been sticking to her all day, never leaving her side. Will it be like this forever? Although it's a bit troublesome, this feeling of being truly cared for doesn't seem so bad. Instead it made her feel inexplicably at ease. The moment this thought flashed, Yi suddenly woke up with wide eyes. Quan Kaiyu next to her didn't notice her abnormality. Staring at her with a sweet expression, Yi suddenly sat up. She thought she was crazy to think that this man is a killer. She almost didn't make it out of the back mountain alive back then. Yes, this man is bad and terrifying. Yi Yan desperately brainwashed herself, but when she turned around she saw Quan Kai's worried face. She asked with concern if she had hit herself anywhere and Yi Yan's heart was in turmoil again. She raised her hand and beat her head desperately. Can't be soft-hearted, can't hesitate, can't slack off. Even less can she forget what happened in the back mountain. Quan Kaiyu, who was strong, immediately grabbed her wrist in a panic. Yi Yan, don't hit yourself. Her eyes showed heartache and anxiety. What's wrong? Did I do something wrong to make you unhappy? Yi Yan suddenly realized the problem. It was these eyes that were always full of tenderness and deep affection. As long as she didn't look into these eyes she wouldn't be soft-hearted. Thinking of this, she immediately closed her eyes and turned her head away. She refused to look at Quan Kaiyu again no matter what. Seeing her like this, Quan Kaiyu, her voice was filled with grievance. Like a child who had made a mistake, she invaded her motherly affection. Yi Yan, you really don't want to look at me? You don't even want to talk to me? Yi Yan shook her hand away, determined not to pay attention to her. Quan Kai's heart skipped a beat and she began to overthink. It must be that she had hurt Yi Yan before, which is why she was so resistant and afraid of her. She lowered her head in annoyance, her voice full of guilt. I am sorry. Is it because I asked Yi Yan to wake up by my side? Did I make things difficult for you? It's all my fault. I am really sorry. Yi Yan was stunned. Quan Kaiyu said as she spoke, slowly stood up and walked heavily towards the door. I'll sleep on the second floor. Yi Yan can let me fall into a long sleep. Consider it my punishment if you feel the need. 1 month, no, 2 months are fine. Don't wake me up until Yi Yan's mood improves. Yi Yan confusedly asked her to wait. Quan Kaiyu, however, opened the door and walked out. Bing Bing Sha Sha instantly turned into a hug in front of his wife. But his wife suspected that she had recovered her memory. At this moment, Quan Kaiyu was walking downstairs in a mess. Yi Yan called out to her, asking with concern if she was alright. Quan Kaiyu slowly turned her head, only to see her eyes were red. Tears welled up in her eyes and she tried her best to maintain her composure. Just stay there. Miss Yi Yan, please don't come near me. Otherwise you might regret it. Yi Yan was stunned. She came to her senses and quickly called out to her, but the first floor is my room. You should stay on the second floor and I'll go back to the first floor. Before she finished speaking, Quan Kaiyu kicked open the door to the first floor and slammed it shut with a bang. Yi Yan was stunned. This was the first time Quan Kaiyu had entered her room. Inside the room, Quan Kaiyu recalled the scene just now. She felt a surge of regret. When Yi Yan grabbed her on the second floor just now, she suddenly had the idea of trapping Yi Yan in the deep night. Her expression at that time must have been terrifying. That's why Yi Yan showed that frightened expression. And she even worriedly asked if she had recovered her memory. Quan Kaiyu secretly made up her mind. She would never hurt Yi Yan like she did before she lost her memory, only to see Huang Chaoyun clinging to the window like a fly looking inside. Yi Yan opened the window and asked him what he was doing unwillingly. Huang Chaoyun greeted Yi Yan righteously. He said he followed the child he saw inside. Li Kui Bai, standing by, immediately started a new round of commentary. This surname Shang doesn't look good. He barely has 2 legs to walk. But he looked very undignified clinging to the outside of the window. Yi Yan told Li Kui Bai to wait inside. She herself walked outside to question Huang Chaoyun about what he wanted. Huang Chaoyun retorted, is that child yours? Yi Yan was so angry at his attitude, so what if he is mine? Huang Chaoyun was shocked. Did you disappear back then because you had a child? Yi Yan was speechless. I was clearly framed by you and fired. Huang Chaoyun said to himself, I was so strict back then. How could you have time to date? I couldn't have missed it. He demanded that Yi Yan immediately produce proof of their family relationship. Otherwise he wouldn't believe it. Yi Yan didn't want to waste words with him. She directly took out her phone to call the police. But Huang Chaoyun was still chattering on and on, demanding proof. If it were before, he might have talked about flattering Huang, but after experiencing the full dismissal and at the time, stop asking about my business. I have a very terrifying husband now. You've seen him too. His temper is no joke. After speaking, Yi Yan turned and went back into the house, leaving Huang Chaoyun standing there, dumbfounded. This Yi Yan, who suddenly became strong, made him feel like a stranger. The Yi Yan in his memory should have been a lonely and introverted woman. No, he had to change Yi Yan's personality back to its original state. From that day on, Huang Chaoyun started stalking again. A group of assassins woke up to learn that their wives were being bullied. The murderous intent under the gentle mask instantly awakened. Because of Huang Chaoyun's constant stalking and torment, Yi Yan called the police. After the police officer listened to her account, they thought it was all a coincidence. Yi Yan found it unbelievable. Meeting the same person more than 3 times a day, can that be called a coincidence? The police officer said that no definite harm had occurred yet, so they couldn't prohibit Huang Chaoyun from walking around here. Then how do you explain the roses at the door every morning? The police officer seemed impatient. Mr. Huang Chaoyun was already at work during that time. He has no alibi. We are really powerless now. Yi Yan felt a wave of absurdity and anger surge in her heart, fear and anger intertwined in her chest. She asked loudly in despair, isn't there any other way? I am sure he's watching me. He's stalked me before. The police officer's answer made Yi Yan's heart turn to ash. These are all your feelings. There is no record indicating that Mr. Huang Chaoyun has stalked you. At her wits' end, Yi Yan wanted to wake up Quan Kaiyu. Chu Zi gave him advice. If you want to use him, you must put aside your prejudice. If you intend to treat him as an assassin all along, then push him away completely. If you want his help, you also have to treat him as a new person. That kid is now an empty shell. He is no longer the person you saw back then. For you or for himself, he is a complete stranger. If you can't do this, then I suggest you don't wake him up. Yi Yan returned to the office conflicted. She planned to sort out her thoughts while working. An assassin is an assassin. He had been reminding himself of this fact all along so he could push Quan Kaiyu away. Doing so would at least alleviate some of the guilt of deceiving an innocent person. As a result, when she needed him, she wanted to conveniently use him. Even she was surprised by her own father. But she vaguely believed that after Quan Kaiyu woke up, he would definitely put an end to this situation. Thinking of this, Yi Yan was stunned. She actually subconsciously wanted to believe an assassin. No, what she believed in was not that assassin but the amnesiac Quan Kaiyu who poured all his tenderness into her. His eyes only had her. Unconsciously, Yi Yan worked until late at night. Her thoughts were almost complete. Her gaze inadvertently swept past the window. She felt as if she had fallen into an ice cellar. She saw Huang Chaoyun standing outside the window staring at her. Yi Yan retreated in terror. Huang Chaoyun moved closer. Yi Yan, where is your husband? I don't see him. At dawn, Quan Kaiyu woke up with a start from a nightmare. Tears were still wet at the corners of his eyes. He gasped for breath. He turned his head and found Yi Yan lying beside him. Yi Yan slowly opened her eyes. She saw Quan Kaiyu staring at her with a sweet smile. Miss Yi Yan, are you doing well? His voice was so gentle. Yi Yan looked at him directly. Quan Kaiyu smiled even more sweetly. Was I released? You can continue to punish me. Yi Yan couldn't understand. What was he so happy about seeing her? Quan Kaiyu looked at Yi Yan with concern. Miss Yi Yan, how have you been during this time? You look thin. Yi Yan felt a tightness in her throat, her heart as if being squeezed by an invisible hand. Quan Kaiyu slept for a full 8 days. During these 8 days, he was tormented by nightmares every day, crying. He didn't understand what kind of dream could cause him so much pain. But it never woke him up, leaving him to struggle in his dreams. Recalling this, his eyes began to redden. A thin layer of mist gathered in his eyes. Seeing him trying to hold back tears, Quan Kai's heart grew cold. What's wrong? What happened? He tried to wipe away his tears, but it was in vain. The more he wiped, the more tears flowed. He spoke incoherently about being followed, his voice broken by sobs. Quan Kaiyu reached out his hand, gently covering his cold fingertips. His palm was as warm as spring, slowly melting the ice in his heart. Miss Yi Yan, it's okay, calm down first. He carefully tucked a stray strand of hair behind his ear, his movements as if holding the most precious treasure in the world. Can you slowly tell me what happened? Under his gentle comfort, Yi Yan's inner panic gradually subsided. He told him everything about Huang Chaoyu. Quan Kaiyu listened intently, his eyes full of heartache. Miss Yi Yan, it must have been very hard for you alone. That's why you woke me up. Because you thought I could help? Yi Yan was immediately flustered. He tried to explain that he didn't mean to use him. Before he could finish speaking, Quan Kaiyu had already embraced him, his grip firm yet gentle. You did the right thing. Yi Yan's heart trembled. The indifferent words of Jin Yuan appeared in his mind. These are all your feelings. Quan Kai's voice gently echoed in his ear. Have you suffered during this time? It's all over now. Jin Yuan's words resurfaced. We are truly powerless now. Quan Kaiyu continued to respond gently. From now on, I'll leave everything to you to help me. Miss Yi Yan, get some good rest. Her voice carried a reassuring power. Yi Yan's eyes immediately welled up with tears again. She didn't see that behind her Quan Kai's gaze had suddenly turned cold, like the sound of winter. Beneath the calm surface, a chilling killing intent surged. A group of assassins exposed their true nature in front of his wife. Not only was his wife not afraid, but she was even crazier than them. Together they beat Huang Chaoyun severely. Huang Chaoyun was a person who never gave up. In his dictionary, there were no impossible tasks, no things he couldn't obtain. For 5 years he escorted Yi Yan home every day, treating himself as Yi Yan's bodyguard. But now Yi Yan had slipped out of his control, which he would not allow. He originally intended to break into Yi Yan's house and take her away, but unexpectedly he was the one who was tied up. Yi Yan brought Quan Kaiyu to the backyard. Huang Chaoyun was seen securely tied to a chair in the corner. Quan Kaiyu couldn't help but praise Yi Yan for tying him up so well. Huang Chaoyun's eyes widened even more. His furious gaze, Quan Kaiyu and Yi Yan stood before him, their postures surprisingly similar, as if observing a trapped beast in the clouds. Especially Quan Kaiyu. His light-colored eyes were now like the lake water in winter. The threat hidden beneath that calmness was more chilling than any anger. Miss Yi Yan, from now on leave it to me. Yi Yan, however, worried that Quan Kaiyu would bury him alive. Don't go too far. Quan Kaiyu responded. Can't speak, I forgot. She casually took the cloth strip from Huang Chaoyun's mouth. Miss Yi Yan did a great job, but who did you learn this from? Quan Kaiyu muttered to herself, a hint of something flashing through each casual movement. He seemed displeased about the source of Yi Yan's mastery of this skill. Huang Chaoyun fearfully declared that she would sue her and Yi Yan in court. But Quan Kaiyu seemed indifferent, still immersed in her own emotions. Huang Chaoyun backed away fearfully, while questioning Quan Kaiyu if he was truly Yi Yan's husband. Show me the evidence. Marriage certificate, otherwise I won't believe you. Quan Kaiyu finally reacted. He dragged Huang Qiaoyun to his feet. Huang Qiaoyun cried out Yi Yan's name in fear. Quan Kai's face contorted instantly, his eyes covered with a layer of frost. I should have told you, don't call another woman by her wife's name. Huang Qiaoyun struggled desperately and cried out louder. Quan Kaiyu grabbed a stone and threw it into her mouth, then dragged her to sleep. Huang Qiaoyun was truly terrified this time. A group of killers actually had a darker side. Even the villains would be scared, but my wife thought she was loyal. Quan Kaiyu asked Huang Qiaoyun where her home was, but Huang Qiaoyun refused to reveal it. Quan Kaiyu stopped asking and directly dragged her towards the door. Then let me guess where your home is. Huang Qiaoyun was shocked. Quan Kai's steps were firm. Without hesitation he walked towards the house she had secretly bought. She hadn't told anyone about this matter. How could this man possibly know? Quan Kai's lips curved into a faint smile. You ask me how I know your birthplace. The first time I went out I saw the house opposite and thought. From this house you can perfectly see Yi Yan's room. If it were me I would buy that house. Her gaze was cold and intimate, as if scrutinizing an insignificant ant. Your methods are too low level. If you're going to do it without being detected. Huang Qiaoyun's face turned pale. Her eyes were full of fear. Quan Kaiyu easily dragged Huang Qiaoyun forward. He pushed open the door of that house. Huang Qiaoyun struggled desperately. No, crossing this threshold will surely be the end of me. Who can save me? Just then a man wearing a baseball cap walked by. An angel. This is definitely an angel. Huang Qiaoyun grabbed onto a lifeline. Tears streaming down her face, she desperately pleaded. The man stopped. He seemed to be quickly confirming that Huang Qiaoyun's hands and feet were bound. Success. Joy flickered in Huang Qiaoyun's eyes. She urged him to come over quickly in her heart. However, the man opened the door next door indifferently and went home. Huang Qiaoyun was stunned, her face filled with disbelief and despair. Quan Kaiyu slowly dragged her into the house. Naturally, he said. The door closed. The man next door entered his house. The next second the man's eyes welled up with tears, his face full of heartache. Young master is personally handling such trivial matters. It seems he has indeed lost his memory, but we can't let the young master get his hands dirty. Those hands are priceless. Although our young master, even if his mind is dulled, there won't be any sequelae from dealing with such bugs, but it's better to be as clean as possible. Thinking of this, the man immediately called Quan Kaiyu. Yes, Li Shi, I am Fan Shi, he said while lifting the blinds. From here you can fully observe Yi Yan's house. An hour ago Yi Yan told Quan Kaiyu about Huang Qiaoyun. Quan Kaiyu comforted Yi Yan, saying he would go and catch Huang Qiaoyun right away. As a result, Yi Yan came and said, I've already caught her. The two came to the backyard and saw Huang Qiaoyun lying there. Her mouth gagged, she was struggling angrily. Quan Kaiyu couldn't help but praise Yi Yan. You caught him. How did you do it? Yi Yan was a little shy from the praise. With a pepper spray gun. I heard it's very effective against these bugs, so I prepared it in advance. Then I just hit her a little with a shovel. Huang Qiaoyun struggled desperately upon hearing this, thinking to herself. It wasn't just a little bit. Quan Kaiyu continued to praise her gently. Miss Yi Yan is amazing. Yi Yan was shy and flustered. No, I just saw her break into my house. My emotions just exploded. Quan Kaiyu continued to praise sweetly even in that situation. The ropes are tied so carefully. Miss Yi Yan is truly skilled. Huang Qiaoyun, who was being ignored, was confused by the situation. She felt that both of them were abnormal. They tied someone up and were still so leisurely. Quan Kaiyu thoughtfully told Yi Yan to go rest first. Leave the rest to me. Yi Yan suddenly thought of something and quickly added. I just felt that Huang Qiaoyun didn't believe your marriage. So I wanted him to meet my husband. I just hope he never appears before me again. So absolutely do not kill him, understand? Quan Kaiyu nodded as if it were natural. Miss Yi Yan, you're so funny. I would never kill him. Seeing her reaction, Yi Yan breathed a sigh of relief. As Chu Zi said, the current Quan Kaiyu is just a shell. The next sentence, if spoken by Quan Kaiyu, would bring it into reality. This is not a good place to kill, is it? After all, it's still a bit here. As expected, I can't let my guard down with this man. Yi Yan once again warned Quan Kaiyu, absolutely no killing. This is an agreement. Quan Kaiyu was amused by her reaction. Of course I will only persuade her. Don't worry. Miss Yi Yan, go rest. Yi Yan nervously returned to her room. Huang Qiaoyun called out Yi Yan's name in terror. He wanted to beg Yi Yan not to leave him alone with this man. Unfortunately, only a muffled sound could be heard. Huang Qiaoyun trembled as he saw Quan Kaiyu. This person looked like he could bury him alive at any moment. Her brave eyes devoid of emotion made her instinctively feel that this man was dangerous. After that, Quan Kaiyu dragged Huang Qiaoyun to the stretcher. A group of assassins began to doubt their wife's identity. A casual remark made her suspicious. At this moment, Yi Yan slept soundly for once. She got up and went to the living room. She saw Quan Kaiyu standing at the workbench trimming flowers. Her movements were quite skilled. Yi Yan's eyes widened and she stopped. Quan Kaiyu noticed Yi Yan standing there blankly and greeted her proactively. Miss Yi Yan, did you sleep well? She smiled cheerfully and put down the flowers. Looking at her smile, Yi Yan was momentarily dazed. The terrible days of the past week seemed to have turned into a pleasant dream. She couldn't help but move closer. What are you doing? Quan Kaiyu replied, gently practicing trimming flowers. Why? I want to go back to work. I want to return to my daily life as soon as possible. Yi Yan opened her mouth but couldn't speak. Guilt welled up in her heart for deceiving Quan Kaiyu. She quickly changed the subject and asked where did the flowers come from. Quan Kaiyu turned her head to look at the flower bed. They were picked from over there. They are blooming right in front. In this brief moment, Yi-yin illuminated her profile. This man from his chin to his tail had smooth even skin without any blemishes. When Quan Kaiyu turned back, their eyes met. She suddenly offered to tie Yi-yin's hair. Yi-yin flusteredly ran her hands through her messy hair. My hair looks messy now, doesn't it? Quan Kaiyu smiled and grabbed Yi-yin. She spun her around. I didn't mean that. I just wanted to help you tie your hair. She gathered Yi-yin's hair upwards with both hands. While tying her hair, she added, Huang Chaoyun won't do that kind of thing again. Mentioning this person, Yi-yin's body suddenly stiffened. Quan Kaiyu gently tied her hair with both hands. So don't worry, relax. Yi-yin awkwardly touched her hair. Quan Kaiyu praised her sincerely. You're so beautiful. Yi-yin asked dully. Are you talking about me? Quan Kaiyu smiled broadly. It seems Miss Yi-yin has no idea how beautiful she is. Her bare face is enough to drive people crazy. Yi-yin blushed from the compliment. She coughed dryly. Suppressing her shyness, she returned to the flower bed to work. Yi-yin, wearing gloves, focused on tending to the flower bed, watering, adding soil and trimming protruding branches. Her skilled movements revealed affection. Facing the amateur who had not yet grown, she was so serious and enthusiastic. So much so that Quan Kaiyu wanted to attract her attention. She couldn't take her eyes off her busy figure. She wondered if Yi-yin had taken care of her like this when she was in a coma. After working, it felt like a dream. He asked curiously, What are you doing? Quan Kaiyu replied gently, Practicing pruning flowers. Why? I want to go back to work soon. I want to return to normal life as soon as possible. Yi-yin opened her mouth but couldn't speak. Guilt welled up in his heart for deceiving Quan Kaiyu. Quan Kaiyu suddenly asked Yi-yin if she wanted help tying her hair. Yi-yin flusteredly ran her hands through her messy hair. Does my hair look messy right now? Quan Kaiyu smiled gently. No, I just want to help. This reminded Yi-yin of her childhood. In her childhood, her hair was always messy. She could only hide in a corner watching her mother gently tie her sister's hair. While tying her hair, Quan Kaiyu mentioned Huang Chaoyun won't be coming anymore. So don't worry, relax. Yi-yin was stunned for a moment and nodded. After her hair was tied, Quan Kaiyu sincerely praised me. So beautiful. Yi-yin asked Kai Dun Li. Are you talking about me? Quan Kaiyu smiled gently. Yes, Miss Yi-yin. A group of assassins actually asked their wives to forget them. The wife almost revealed her true identity. At this moment, Quan Kaiyu was a little uneasy because she thought of Huang Chaoyun. Her unease was not about the marriage itself, but about Yi-yin's attitude towards her. She didn't seem to like her that much. She slowly walked to Yi-yin's side and asked if she preferred her past self. In your eyes, are we the same person? Yi-yin's eyes wavered. Probably not. After all, the previous Quan Kaiyu was very scary. You're like a different person now. Quan Kaiyu smiled with satisfaction. Forget my past self. I love Yi-yin more than she did. I will definitely be obedient in the future. We can start dating again. Yi-yin was a little resistant. Let's just be like before. Isn't it good to have a platonic relationship? Quan Kai's eyes remained still. She smiled, very interesting. Let's see how long you can pretend. Yi-yin's expression froze instantly. Quan Kaiyu continued to say, From now on, Miss Yi-yin, you can try to love me more. If we really got married because we love each other. Under her probing gaze, Yi-yin tried hard to suppress the panic in her heart. Time quickly passed to the evening. Yi-yin waited nervously. Unexpectedly, Quan Kaiyu just asked her if she could tell her about their past stories. For example, how we met for the first time. But don't tell me the details of your relationship. I am jealous. Yi-yin secretly breathed a sigh of relief. She really didn't have any details about their relationship. She could only change the scene of their first meeting and tell it. We met on the mountain. I accidentally lost something. Mr. Quan Kaiyu kindly chased after me to call me back. That was the beginning. Did Miss Yi-yin lose her handkerchief? Yi-yin blurted out. It was an electric current. She immediately realized she had said the wrong thing. She quickly corrected herself. It was a small comb. But Quan Kaiyu didn't hide. She just looked at her gently. A group of assassins actually made a mistake. The wife was quite frightened by her reaction. At first they were talking sweetly in the courtyard. Unknowingly they started talking about which flowers were edible. As a plant doctor, Yi-yin knew a lot about this. He smiled and shared childhood anecdotes with Quan Kaiyu. When he was hungry as a child, he would eat some flowers. Quan Kaiyu curiously took the flower drink and took a bite. Immediately her brows furrowed. This is also not tasty. Yi-yin laughed at her frank reaction. However, Quan Kai's expression suddenly became serious. She asked a little jealously, Miss Yi-yin, do you prefer me before the poetic era? This sudden question stunned Yi-yin. Her silence was misunderstood as consent by Quan Kaiyu. Her face instantly turned gloomy. She wouldn't allow anyone to occupy Yi-yin's heart, even if that person was her past self. Quan Kai's attitude made Yi-yin involuntarily take a step back. This reminded her of how she looked when she first woke up. Quan Kai's expression cooled. Your thoughts are completely dominated. Forget my past self. I love Yi-yin more than before. I will definitely be obedient in the future. We can start over. Yi-yin was a little resistant. Let's just be like before. Isn't it good to have a platonic relationship? Quan Kai's eyes remained still. A meaningful smile curved her lips. Very interesting. Let's see how long you can pretend. Yi-yin's expression froze instantly. Quan Kaiyu continued to say, From now on, Miss Yian, you can try to love me more. If we really got married because we love each other. Under her probing gaze, Yian tried hard to suppress the panic in her heart. Before she was a reclusive young master. After losing her memory, she became a love cat. Her eyes and heart were only for her wife. At this moment, Yian was regretting it. To prevent Quan Kaiyu from falling into a deep sleep, she impulsively agreed to wake up by her side. In the future, Quan Kaiyu was quietly reading a book nearby. Her gaze was focused on the pages, which made Yian feel both relieved and uneasy, and felt conflicted. The person who had just confessed to her during the day was now so calm, as if not caring at all about what was said during the day. Is this normal? Quan Kaiyu suddenly caught Yian's gaze. Startled, she asked Yian confusedly if she was disturbing her rest. Yian quickly explained that she had slept too much during the day and was now a bit insomniac. Quan Kaiyu put down her book, a faint smile curving her lips. She asked Yian to tell her about the past. Yian's mind immediately became alert. On the surface, she tried to remain calm. What do you want to hear? Quan Kaiyu was a little shy. Like about our first meeting? Yian could only stammer and change the facts. We met on the mountain. I was walking in the mountains and accidentally dropped something. It was thanks to you that you chased after me and returned it to me. Quan Kaiyu listened without rushing. Instead, her eyes lit up. It's classic, isn't it? Yian forced a smile and nodded. Yes, a very traditional encounter. Quan Kaiyu shyly asked softly, May, did Yian drop a hand-drawn picture? Yian's mouth twitched. Internally, she complained, it's the Wadian you like. But her expression didn't reveal anything. It was just a small comb. Quan Kaiyu nodded. Is this how we started? Yian's heart tightened, thinking she had become suspicious. She pretended to be calm and asked what was wrong. Quan Kaiyu, however, showed a sweet smile. She gazed at Yian affectionately. Nothing. I just think it was great that we went to the mountains that day. Yian's expressionless inner monologue. I regret going to the mountain that day thousands of times. Quan Kaiyu seemed immersed in the sweet memories she had constructed. She even praised her pre-amnesia self. That guy did some good things too. Yian worried that Quan Kaiyu would ask more questions. She deliberately yawned to end the topic. But late at night, she was woken by a low sobbing sound. She turned on the light and saw that Quan Kaiyu was crying again. She couldn't help but sigh. She couldn't sleep in the first place, and now she couldn't sleep even more. She was so aggressive during the day. Why did she start crying as soon as she fell asleep? What was there to be so sad about? Although Yian kept complaining internally, her actions of wiping away Quan Kai's tears were careful and gentle. She suddenly remembered hearing somewhere that classical music helps with deep sleep. Yian tiptoed to the corner of the office. She successfully found a small box covered in dust. Inside the box was a CD case. Yian took out her phone and searched for the music title on the CD. She found the corresponding track. In her sleep, Quan Kai's ears were filled with the deep and warm melody of the cello. A woman's voice sounded in her ear like a spring breeze brushing across a lake. Yes, that voice is gentle and encouraging. That's right, you're doing so well. Who is speaking? Quan Kaiyu wondered confusedly in her dream. Why was this voice so pleasant? It was the most beautiful sound she had ever heard. Finally, she saw the woman's appearance. She had eyes similar to Quan Kai's. With a gentle smile on her lips, she said, if you keep this up, you'll catch up to me soon. Quan Kai's furrowed brow gradually relaxed and her breathing became steady. Yian, holding her phone and playing music, looked at Quan Kaiyu in her sleep in surprise. She had actually stopped crying. She had only tried it with the mindset of treating a dead. Quan Kaiyu, however, had a determined look on his face. He was unwilling to be eliminated. Most importantly, he could tell that the tree had serious branch problems. He wanted to hurry over to help. As he said this, he stepped forward and tried to snatch the rope back. Give me back the rope quickly. Quan Kaiyu quickly raised the rope high above his head. I'll give it back to you if you come home with me. Yian was speechless. Are you kidding me? Quan Kaiyu was both worried and amused. He wished it were a joke. Why are you so careless? Yian explained that he was very timid. But a sense of responsibility is more important than timidity. Quan Kaiyu still shook his head stubbornly. A fiery look ignited in Yian's eyes. Mr. Quan Kaiyu, are you talking back to me now? Quan Kaiyu was stunned. A hint of hurt flashed across his face. As soon as he finished speaking, Yian regretted it, realizing that his words were too hurtful. Unconsciously, he had become accustomed to Quan Kaiyu obeying his every word. Yian dared not look up at Quan Kai's expression. His gaze fell on the ground, his heart filled with guilt. Quan Kaiyu broke the silence first. Miss Yian. He reached out and tied the safety rope for Yian, his movements careful and focused. No, how could I do that? Miss Yian never considered the feelings of her husband waiting below. I didn't mean to hinder you. I meant to protect you. I wasn't joking, I just wanted you to comfort me. Because I was worried. Hearing this, Yian felt as if a small stone had been thrown into his heart. An endless sea of red. Just then the host urged Yian to begin. Yian took the pruning shears and prepared to climb the tree. Choji worriedly told him to be careful. Yian smiled and comforted him, saying he would be fine. He looked at the pruning shears, trying to suppress the turmoil in his heart. These pruning shears had once defeated Quan Kaiyu. Only Quan Kaiyu was enough to be immersed in the absurd setting he had fabricated. He absolutely could not fall into it. Yian took a deep breath, grabbed the rope and began to climb. His movements were skilled and powerful, each step steady and precise. As he climbed higher and higher, Dean Green Tree below looked on with admiration. Dean Yian might really succeed. But as Yian climbed higher, he gradually began to feel weak. In his 32 years of life, he realized for the first time that he was afraid of heights. This was because he had never climbed to such a height before. Once he realized this, his body became uncontrollable and began to tremble slightly. Yian gritted his teeth trying to steady himself. He repeatedly told himself in his heart, I've come this far. I must heal this tree. Yian finally reached the target location, carefully stepping onto a seemingly sturdy thick branch. Nervous, he didn't notice the moss on the branch. Before he could adjust his balance, his foot suddenly slipped, and he lost his balance, falling uncontrollably downwards. In the end, to save his wife, he displayed a killer's agility in front of everyone for the first time, stunning everyone. At this moment, Yian almost fell from the tree. In a moment of crisis, Quan Kaiyu rushed forward and caught him steadily. Yian was stunned, not yet recovered from the shock. Quan Kaiyu asked him with concern if he was injured, but Yian interrupted him angrily. Are you crazy? Why would you climb up with your bare hands? I have a rope, so it'll be fine even if I fall. How can you disregard your own safety? His words were full of concern for him. Quan Kaiyu couldn't help but curl his lips. I am fine. Miss Yian, you make the decision. Do you want to go down now or persevere to the end? Yian said he wanted to persevere to the end. I will absolutely not give up halfway. Quan Kaiyu offered to carry Yian. Yian naturally refused as he didn't even have a safety rope. He urged Quan Kaiyu to go down quickly. Quan Kaiyu shook his head. It's okay, even if I fall, Miss Yian will still be alive. Yian interrupted him with a serious expression. If you get seriously injured, my life will be over. Besides, I am a surgeon. Of course my surgical skills are better than yours as an amateur. Don't push yourself. Unexpectedly, Quan Kaiyu not only didn't listen but directly carried Yian on his back. In a few steps he lightly ascended higher as if he were just walking on flat ground. In the blink of an eye they reached their destination. Yian was completely stunned. Before he could recover, Quan Kaiyu asked him for the pruning shears again. Ill prune, teach me how to do it. Yian silently handed him the pruning shears. After witnessing his extraordinary ability, refusing seemed too redundant. The crowd below was dumbfounded. They had never seen anyone climb such a tall tree with bare hands without any protective gear. Not only that, but he was carrying someone on his back, and even had time to prune branches. Was this something a human could do? Under Yian's command, Quan Kaiyu successfully pruned the excess branches. The crowd below was stunned again. It was like watching a movie. Faced with such skill, even opponents had to admit defeat. The host announced the winner of the first round. Yian's Yunshan Hospital. The love struck Quan Kaiyu. Just because of a word from his fake wife was full of hope for life. To celebrate the hospital's successful preliminary review, everyone gathered for dinner. Shu described the scene vividly. I thought Quan Kaiyu was not clear-headed, and then when you were half lying down, he immediately jumped up with the endurance of a leopard. With an exaggerated tone, he glanced sideways at Quan Kaiyu. The man was putting the cooked food on his plate. When Chu tried to pour wine into Quan Kai's cup, Yian stopped him, saying that sick people should drink less. Is someone sick? Which patient can lift Yian up from such a high place with one arm? If this counts as a pathogen, then I can bury myself in the ground. The woman was actually speechless. But what if she gets drunk and turns back to her original self? Chu raised the bottle and poured more wine for Quan Kaiyu. Quick, take it, my son-in-law. Unexpectedly, Yian snatched the bottle and drank it all in one gulp. Ill, drink Quan Kai's wine for her. Chu was terrified. What are you doing? You little brat who can't even drink. What nonsense are you talking about? Yian insisted, saying she had a headache. I am also a sick person. Sick people are not allowed to drink alcohol. Facing the argument between the two, Quan Kaiyu was surprised and confused. Yian firmly disagreed with the man touching the bottle. Soon the woman was completely dazed, her feet seemed to be floating in the air. As if she were a cloud, she giggled happily. Her legs swayed back and forth. The man quickly called the police. Yian, don't move, be careful you don't fall. But the woman had no idea where she was. Her face was pressed against a flat hard back and she was completely dazed. Quan Kaiyu patted his wife's back. Yian, what's wrong? Why do you drink so much if you have a bad tolerance? Because if I don't drink, Quan Kaiyu will. Don't you like me drinking? Drunk women are very active. Answer whatever you ask. Yes, I am worried you'll remember something if you drink. Quan Kaiyu, who had been walking quietly, suddenly stopped. The smile on her lips gradually disappeared. She hadn't forgotten Yian's old wounds. Her face turned ashen with despair. Yian, do you want me not to regain my memory? Yian, did I scare you? Did I hurt you? The woman answered yes to every question. Do you know, this relationship is not normal. I shouldn't have accepted it from the beginning. The man's heart was cut like a knife. He wanted to pull the old Quan Kaiyu from before her career out of her memory and bury her in the ground. The man was in immense pain and torment. Why did she lose her memory? Why did she leave all the painful memories to Yian? The man chuckled to himself. When I was injured, even if Yian had run away at the time, it would have been understandable. The woman whispered, we have a strict agreement. The man's words caused a deep tremor. So be careful when signing contracts in the future. Although I regret it and it's hard, even if I went back to the past, I would still keep my promise. The man's throat seemed to be blocked. She didn't expect her wife to be so committed to her promises. A strong sense of belonging enveloped her. They climbed a 30-meter high tree together and completed the mission. The former Quan Kaiyu was so useless but didn't give up. It was probably Yian's sense of responsibility. I want to be the kind and gentle husband that Yian spoke of. The woman was so surprised she didn't know what to say. Because Quan Kai's eyes at this moment were so sincere. He said, if you tame me you have to take responsibility to the end. Quan Kaiyu sat comfortably and ate breakfast. In contrast, Yian was uncomfortable. He ate absent-mindedly. The woman was unsure if what Quan Kaiyu said was true. If your memory has returned, why don't you question him? Of course this is a good thing for him. The woman tentatively opened her mouth that Quan Kaiyu, if you have any questions. Do you have anything you want to ask me? The man answered directly, number. Yian was confused, but why did he cry every night? Because I am using the same body. That's why I know I want to die because of regret. Although I don't know where he's been hanging out, he must be a fool who only uses inferior tactics. Quan Kaiyu suddenly covered his mouth, looking like he had a headache. Did that guy make you a lot of money? Yian mumbled. He said he made quite a lot. I knew it. Yian is too responsible. He doesn't even know how to play tricks. Don't be so good to someone. If you like a man with a brain, you should take full advantage of me. Yian's face instantly turned red and he stammered. But people don't change. The man was anxious. My mind is blank right now. How can it be the same? I know Yian doesn't believe it now. Am I that much like that dead ex-husband? The woman suddenly stammered, unable to speak. I am a silly person who doesn't understand anything. Whatever Yian wants, I'll give it all to you. Really? Then he turned his head away proudly. If Yian can't forget that trash, then it's over. Seeing the man actively promoting himself, Yian desperately suppressed the urge to burst out laughing. Then he ate the laughter along with the food. Yian, I suddenly remembered a question. In our hospital it's just you, your mother-in-law, and me, right? Who is the mother-in-law? To be Yian's husband properly, I must carefully understand the people around Yian. Yian just remembered. When Gui Bai came back, Quan Kaiyu was still in a coma. One Quan Kaiyu, one child. If two such difficult people clash, it's very dangerous. He had to explain there's also an informal insect doctor. Because he's still in school, he comes less often. Quan Kaiyu suddenly felt a sense of crisis. There's actually another man. Then one day Quan Kaiyu, who was exercising, confronted this insect doctor head-on. The once cold killer now struts in front of Yian like a peacock. At this moment the two great demons officially meet. I finally met the director's boyfriend. Quan Kaiyu saw an upside-down child in his field of vision. He was a very small boy, at most reaching his thigh. Little brat, who are you? My name is Gui Bai, a first grader at Willow Elementary School. What are you doing here? The child took a book out of his bag. The man was also curious. He squatted down and quietly watched the child's actions. Gui Bai quickly flipped through. Male ring-tailed lemurs secrete floral scents to attract females. They court through scent. Quan Kaiyu didn't understand how this related to his question. He saw the child suddenly pinch his nose. You smell very bad right now. Quan Kaiyu seemed to understand a little with a hint of caution. I don't know what you're talking about, but that's just sweat. You're definitely younger than the director. The man denied it. I heard we're the same age. That's bad. No wonder the smell has become unpleasant. What do you mean? Younger monkeys compared to older monkeys can release stronger and longer-lasting pheromones. The man was suddenly speechless. Gui Bai slapped his forehead in surprise. The male is in big trouble now. Quan Kaiyu smiled and wiped the sweat from his chin. He just thought the child was talking nonsense. What a funny little guy. However, the next second he couldn't laugh anymore. Our director is very popular. The man immediately became vigilant. How popular? Giant wood carpenter, nursery dealer, environmental reporter. You all smell the same. You males need to work harder. Quan Kaiyu wanted to get more information. Just then Yian appeared. The child quickly ran over. Gui Bai, when did you come? Have you eaten? Looking at the child's dropped backpack, Quan Kaiyu helplessly picked it up. Yian asked shyly, Gui Bai, did I disturb you? No, that little guy taught me a lot of knowledge. Yian suddenly had a bad feeling. Mr. Quan Kaiyu, he's the informal insect doctor at our hospital. He's still in elementary school. The man squatted down to the child's level. From now on we'll be colleagues. Please take care of me, doctor. You'll be my assistant. Between the big and small one, there seemed to be an unspoken smell of gunpowder. On the way out, the woman explained what Gui Bai said had no other intention. The reason he called you male wasn't because he was rude. It was because when he gets obsessed with something, he quickly loses interest and does things his own way. That sounds a lot like me. Yian couldn't continue speaking. The man in the passenger seat had been staring at him since they left. Quan Kaiyu, look ahead, look ahead. I am not driving. Is that necessary? If I get distracted you'll suffer too. Will you cause an accident? The woman raised her voice. Of course it's possible. The man stared at her for a moment, then obediently turned his head away. One word he said, I need my ID. The woman was stunned, then slammed on the brakes. It turned out she had missed the green light and her chest almost hit the steering wheel. Fortunately Quan Kaiyu quickly blocked it with his arm. Are you okay? What's wrong, Yian? The woman's face turned bright red. And nothing. Mr. Quan Kaiyu, the man's gaze suddenly became serious. Yian, she called softly. Mr. Quan Kaiyu, it's too close. Unexpectedly the man just tidied his hair. The woman didn't know if she was relieved or disappointed. Why do you suddenly want my ID? I want to find a formal job. Yian's hands tightened. Mr. Quan Kai's job is to plant flowers at our hospital. Then you won't earn any money. My body is still fine. So you have to make good use of it. After getting your phone and bankbook sorted out, I will work hard. I absolutely cannot let Quan Kaiyu face the outside world. He made an excuse that he didn't know where he put it and would look for it when he got back. The woman's heart sank slightly. This man seemed to be becoming difficult to control. Quan Kai's infatuation was all due to Yi Yan's constant hypnosis. At this time they were undergoing a follow-up examination at the hospital. The doctor said the progress was very good. The existence or non-existence of Su Yiyan determined the patient's sleep. The patient only remembered Su Yiyan's face. I suspect this might be a hint. However, before the accident the patient might have suffered some extreme shock. Yi Yan didn't quite understand. The doctor looked at the woman meaningfully. She might have been hypnotized while in a vegetative state. The patient who had just woken up said something like this. She said, "Please don't wake me up." The patient just didn't remember. This subconsciousness had accumulated unintentionally for 2 years. Yi Yan was deeply shocked. She had constantly spoken to the lying Quan Kaiyu, pleading countless times hoping she would sleep forever. There's one more thing I forgot to tell you. Sleeping Beauty syndrome usually comes with symptoms like aggressive resistance and abnormal behavior. Have you encountered similar problems? Yi Yan didn't know what to say. The doctor misunderstood that Quan Kaiyu had not exhibited the above behaviors. But the woman knew very well that she had to break off an attack. Every time Glasses called Yi Yan's name she would react excessively. Without any equipment she climbed to the top of a 30-meter high tree. It turned out that all of that was a symptom of the illness. She couldn't explain it, but Yi Yan felt a little disappointed. There were no patients who didn't rely on medication. The patient cannot leave Miss Su Yiyan. We will definitely persevere. However, I sympathize more with the patient. She will have to pray to Miss Su Yiyan for the rest of her life. Because you control her surname. After leaving the hospital, Yi Yan needed to check on the progress of the trees with the stubborn Quan Kaiyu following behind. Despite her repeated attempts to get him to go home, the man firmly refused. Quan Kaiyu took Yi Yan's bag. "Yi Yan, are you angry with me?" The woman instinctively dodged the man's focused gaze. "It's not like that." Then why? The already excited animals rushed forward even more fiercely. With a single word he collapsed in a hurry. What time is it to say such things? The moment the bloody fangs were in front of Quan Kai's nose, the man quickly aimed the stake in his hand and then struck hard. The wild boar was instantly stuck on the stake and Yi Yan thought it was over. Unexpectedly the wild boar closed its eyes and attacked again. The powerful impact kept moving forward, directly hitting Quan Kaiyu against the tree. "You can't die. I'll call for rescue immediately." After trembling and finishing the call, he was worried about the man's safety for the first time, and the battle between man and boar was still going on. His face was covered in ketchup, making the man excited and stand up. The woman's gaze was closely concerned about Quan Kaiyu. Although covered in scars she was still smiling happily. "Yi Yan, come down." The woman's heart pounded. She felt she should go down. Her gaze at her was as terrifying as a beast. The man smiled. "Yi Yan, are you scared? Do you need me to go up?" Yi Yan refused. "My legs are trembling. I'll catch my breath and go down." "Mr. Quan Kaiyu, can you calm down for a while?" Quan Kaiyu looked no different from usual. He smiled as obediently as before, but this couldn't make people ignore her terror. The man obediently put down the axe when he heard this, with a gentle smile on his face. "I've put down the axe, so it's Yi Yan's turn to come down now." When they arrived at the hospital, Quan Kaiyu was covered in bruises. But the doctor was furious. He only suffered such minor injuries. It's a miracle. After all, the impact of a 500 kilograms wild boar is no different from a car accident. Yi Yan was clear-headed. If she had insisted on going up alone at that time, the consequences would have been unimaginable. After treating the wound, the doctor left. Thanks to that doctor, she didn't have to submit an application alone. Otherwise, in front of Quan Kaiyu, she would have become a wife who didn't even know her husband's ID card. The man looked solemn. "I've always wondered who that person was." Yi Yan asked uncertainly, "Are you asking about that doctor?" Quan Kai's eyes were suspicious. "She's just a doctor, right?" "She is Mr. Quan Kai's doctor. Ever since Mr. Quan Kaiyu became a vegetative state, she has been responsible for your condition. You saw her come and go freely from home to the hospital, right? Because this is Quan Kai's private doctor. Don't I have that much money?" The man suddenly interrupted the woman. "Yi Yan, taking care of a vegetative patient must be tiring. How did you hire a doctor who comes when you call?" Yi Yan actually denied their relationship. Quan Kai's body was filled with explosive energy. At this moment, Quan Kaiyu was jealous of the attending physician. It was only because his wife made a phone call that the doctor appeared. Yi Yan spoke. "Quan Kai's family, that is Quan Kai's brother, gave us full support. She is really a doctor." "Was this person sent by your brother?" "She wouldn't be a suspicious person. She worked hard day and night." "Day and night, did that person enter and leave Yi Yan's house alone?" Suddenly the man leaned close to Yi Yan. "Did she come and go?" The woman felt a strong pressure. "So when you're anxious, the first person you think of is that guy." The woman spoke. "So is that person your attending physician? What do you do all day?" Treating. The man pressed on. "With whom? How?" Yi Yan instinctively felt that this was a bit strange. "Are we discussing a doctor now? I don't know what I am saying. Should I call the doctor again? I think my cognitive ability is declining." Quan Kaiyu held his head in pain. "I am sorry for making a fuss over a small matter. Yi Yan seemed to be very dependent on that doctor. It was after talking with that person that I haven't earned money for 2 years. Lying there like an idiot. That doctor is healthy and rich. Just thinking about that bastard entering and leaving Yi Yan's house. I am going crazy. Yi Yan didn't know what to say. He didn't remember. It's understandable to think too much. Just as he was feeling uneasy, the door was suddenly pulled open. Is the person who caught the wild boar here? The newcomer showed a charming smile. It seems to be here. Hello, I am so excited. I am Zhu Dongmai from the Animal Working Group. Thank you very much for catching him. As a man-eating wild boar, it has already injured many people. The pressure from above is very high. We were preparing to organize a team to capture him. I didn't expect you to have solved it. Thanks to you, we can keep our jobs. Even Yi Yan, who was slow-witted, could see that this woman had a good impression of Quan Kaiyu. This sudden good feeling was unfamiliar to him. I guess you caught him with an axe and a stake, right? Zhu Dongmai's eyes were full of excitement. Suddenly the whistling of colleagues came from behind. Zhu Dongmai's face instantly turned red. However, Quan Kaiyu didn't move at all. The scene was awkward. Yi Yan spoke to stop the silence. He doesn't have contact information. What is your relationship? Zhu Dongmai looked at the two and asked. Yi Yan was silent for a long time before saying. He is an employee of mine. Quan Kaiyu suddenly smiled. Zhu Dongmai turned to ask again. Can you give me a business card? Sorry, this employee doesn't have a business card yet. Yi Yan quickly handed over his own. Zhu Dongmai politely asked, are you a tree doctor? We sometimes damage trees during rescues. Can I contact you then? That's an extra service. Yi Yan happily agreed. Zhu Dongmai left as enthusiastically as she had arrived. Before leaving, she winked at Quan Kaiyu. Next time we meet, be sure to tell me your name, she said, and left in a whirlwind. I'll probably never experience such unity. Quan Kaiyu sneered. Employee, is that the only way you can introduce me? Why are you turning your back to me? Yi Yan, you probably don't know. You treat your dog like dog shit. Quan Kaiyu asked his wife to give him a bath and Yi Yan guiltily agreed. Because the woman denied their relationship in front of outsiders, the two were silent all the way home. Quan Kaiyu looked out the window while Yi Yan just fiddled with the steering wheel. The woman secretly watched Quan Kaiyu, who seemed to be in a bad mood. The atmosphere in the car was icy and Yi Yan didn't know how to start. The two returned home in silence. After entering, Yi Yan carefully chose her words and spoke. The doctor will be here soon, Mr. Quan Kaiyu. Please rest for a while. Unexpectedly, the man immediately took off his coat, his expression lazy yet aggressive. He turned to Yi Yan and said, please give me a bath. Yi Yan was shocked. Although this is unpaid, if Yi Yan does a good job, I am willing to pay. Do you think I am an unreasonable person? So please give me a bath. Isn't it just like bathing a big dog? It's no big deal. Yi Yan took a deep breath and another deep breath. With a sense of impending doom, she opened the bathroom door only to see the man looking at her leisurely. Come here, Miss Yi Yan, the woman comforted herself. Calm down, calm down. It's fine, it's fine. Miss Yi Yan, why are you standing there? Hurry up and help me unbutton my pants. What is this person saying? My hand is injured and it hurts. I can't unbutton my pants. Maybe I've been in a vegetative state for too long. I am scared and uneasy. Can Yi Yan help me? The woman thought frantically. Weren't you the one who climbed a 30-meter tree with your bare hands? Yi Yan, hurry up. I want to finish bathing quickly. Under the man's constant urging, the woman reluctantly stepped forward. She had prepared herself mentally for a long time. She closed her eyes and reached out to press. She only heard the man's indifferent laughter in her ear. Miss Yi Yan, you've pressed my car's gear. You need to go a bit higher. The woman instantly wanted to explode. Just as she was about to flee, she was dragged into the water by the man, his fists and face full of smiles. Now Yi Yan is with me, the woman said angrily. Are you kidding me? You liar. Unexpectedly, the man suddenly bit her face. Her tone was full of grievance. Yi Yan was the one who joked with me first. You are my wife. Why are you pushing me to another woman? Yi Yan opened her mouth, lowered her head and denied, I didn't. The man suddenly became agitated. You've been thinking about this, haven't you? You can't abandon me because of your sense of responsibility. So you sold me to someone else.